Hey 6th graders, this is 7-9. Today's lesson is more about percents like we did yesterday, but yesterday it was all about finding percent when your whole is 100. Today we're going to be talking about when you're finding the percent of a number that is not 100. So finding the percent of any number, not just of 100. So for this first activity, we have a picture similar to yesterday's picture. Yesterday's looked like this, but today it says there's 300 students at a school and they are in 100 groups of 3. So what we have here is a picture of, you can see the 100% because each one of these boxes is split into, well, there's 100 of these little boxes, but there are 3 students in each one of these. So the first question says color one group blue. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. One group is going to be blue. And it says, what percent of the students is this? Well, since there's 100 of these boxes, this is simply 1% of the students because I colored in one box out of all the 100. And we know that if it's 1 out of 100, that is 1%. Then it says, well, what number of students is this? Well, how many students were in that little box? Well, I kind of colored it dark so you can't see anymore, but you can see that in all of these boxes, there's 3 students. So there are 1% of the students in this box, which is 3 students. Number 2 says color 4 groups red. 1, 2, 3, 4. So here's 4 groups that are red, and it says, what percent of the students is this? Well, there are 100 boxes total, and we colored in 4 of them, so 4 out of 100 is 4%. What number of students is this? Well, I colored 4 boxes, and there were 3 students in each box, so I could simply say 4 boxes times 3 students in each one equals 12 students. So 4% of the students in this 300 student school equals 12 students. Number 3, color 17 groups green. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and do my big group of 10 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, then I'll catch these ones, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and then 2 more, 16, 17. So there's 17 groups of students, and what percent of the students is that? Well, I colored in 17 boxes out of 100 boxes total, so as you can guess, that's 17%. And what number of students is this? Well, I colored in 17 boxes, and there's 3 students in each box. So I get to solve 17 times 3. I don't have that memorized, so I'll do it off to the side. And I get 51 students. So there's 51 students in these green colored boxes. Number 4 says color 9% of the students yellow. All right. Well, there's 100 boxes, so 9% of them would be coloring 9 of those boxes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then here's my 9th one. So if I colored 9% of the students, that is going to be, oh wait. No, that's good. Okay, color 9% of the students. So we did 9 of them yellow. Hold on. No, Caleb, not right now. No, Caleb. Sorry, guys. My son came in again. Okay. So we've got 9 of these yellow, so 9% of the students is the same as 9 out of 100, so we colored 9 of those boxes. And then we need to know how many students is this? Well, I colored 9 of those boxes, and there are 3 kids in each one. And so how many students is that? 27 students, okay? So we found out that 1% of this picture is 3 students. We found out that 4%, excuse me, 4% of the students is 12 kids. We found out that 17% of the students is 51 kids, and then 9% of the students is 27 kids. All right, then it says color 24% of the students orange. Well, 24%, okay. So now I need to color 24% means I need to do 24 out of 100 because that's what 24% equals. So I need to color 24 of those boxes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If I do that whole next strip quickly, that's 10 more, which would be the 9 I already had plus 10 more is 19. And then 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. All right, so that is my orange section. And it says, what number of students is this? Well, it was 24 of those boxes, and there were 3 students in each one. So I get to solve 24 times 3, which is 72 students. So my next one, number 6, says color 35% of the students purple. So what I get to do next is say, well, 35%, that's the same as 35 out of 100. So I'm going to color 35 of these boxes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 10 more would be 15. 10 more would be 25, and 10 more would be 35. So 35 out of 100 boxes is 35%, and how many students is this? Well, I did 35 boxes times 3 students each, and let's see what 35 times 3 is. We get 105. So in our last 2 problems, we found out that 24% of the students in the 300 student school is 72 kids, and 35% of the students in the 300 student school was 105 kids. All right, so that was kind of just using a picture. I mean, I don't think the picture really helped that much. I think mostly what we did was math and multiplication, realizing that if 300 students was put into groups of 3, the reason they did groups of 3 in this problem was because we wanted to make that 300 turn into 100, because 100 is the whole goal when you're working with percents. So they forced the 300 students to be in a number that was close to 100 by putting them in groups of 3. That made the math a lot easier. All right, so on our next page, we don't have a picture to help us. It says 3 students had different ideas about how to solve the following problem. Of the 300 students at a school, 35% say they are going on a field trip. How many students are going on the field trip? So we could just solve that problem right here, except what it says is there's 3 different students that have ideas about how to solve this. Okay, so we're going to look at 3 different strategies of how you could get this answer. There's 300 students at the school, 35% are going on a field trip. So how many kids is that? All right. Anna says, I will divide 300 by 100 to find 1% of 300. Then I will multiply that answer by 35 to find 35% of 300. All right, so this is pretty much what they did in the last picture. They did 300 divided by 100. 300 divided by 100, which is 3. Okay, and that is 1% of 300. Then I will multiply that answer by 35 to find 35% of 300. So this is pretty much exactly what we did on this page right here when we said, hey, we divided 300 total into all those 100 groups, and there was 3 in each group, so then we multiplied the percent by 3 because there was 3 in each group. So that's what she's doing, is finding out 1%. So 1% means 3 kids. And then since there's 35%, you're going to take that 35 and multiply it by 3. That's what she says. I'm going to multiply that answer by 35, which is 105. So 105 students. Which makes sense because that is what we did right here. All right. Another student did it a different way. This student said, I will use the fact that 35% of 300 means 35 out of 100 times 300. So let me talk about why this strategy makes sense. 35 out of 100 is just another way of saying 35%. Okay, that's what we did on this page. We said, hey, 35%, another way to write that is 35 out of 100. That's how you write a percent, is make it a fraction over 100. Then he says times 300. Why? Well, remember in class how we've said that times is like saying of. Multiplication, you can say of, it means the same thing in math. So saying 35% of 300 is like saying 35% times 300. Or in other words, 35 over 100, that's another way of writing the percent, is as a fraction. And multiplying it, because we're saying times of, multiply, they're all the same thing, of 300. Now, if I want to get this answer, I need to put 300 over 1 to make it a fraction. Then I can multiply 35 times 300. Well, I don't want to do 35 times 300. I'm just going to do 35 times 3 and then add 2 zeros to my answer. I hope that makes sense to you guys. So I'm going to get 105, which I should already know because I just did it right here. And I get 105, and then I get to put 2 zeros on it because I multiplied it by 3 instead of 300. And then my denominator is 100 times 1, which is 100. Now, something about math when you were dividing, if I have 100, or if I have 10,500 and I'm dividing it by 100, basically what I'm doing is saying these decimal points need to move over. If I'm dividing it by 100, that's like saying I have my answer, which is, my numerator, which is 10,500, and dividing it by 100 means that my decimal point moves over 2 places to the left. So we end up with 105 students, just a different way of doing it. Okay, then we have a third way. It says if F is the number of students going on the trip, then the fraction of students going is F out of 300. And it's also 35 over 100. I can write and solve a proportion. Okay, so let's talk about why this strategy makes sense. This one is actually the way that I learned how to do percents when I was growing up. So this one makes the most sense to me personally, but maybe one of these first strategies makes sense to you. This one is just saying that we already know 35% is 35 out of 100. And that's because we have 35 out of the total 100. Well, if we're setting up a proportion, we would say that the total, we want the total to be on the same part of our proportion. The total kids in the school is 300. We want to find out how many is 35%. Okay, so the way we set this proportion up is saying if 100 is the total for the percent and 300 is the total of the school, then what's just 35% of those kids? So then we can solve this by doing cross multiplication. And we can say 35 times 300 on this side equals 100x on the left side. This looks like an X. I should do a dot. And then I already know 35 times 300 because I did it up here. 35 times 300 equals 10,500. And that equals 100x. So if I want to solve this x, I need to divide by 100 on the left side, divide by 100 on the right side. X is all by itself, and I already know the answer to 10,500 divided by 100 because we did it right here. Remember, if you divide by 100, you're just moving your decimal place 2 places to the left, like we talked about up here, which is 105. So lots of ways to solve these. You can just choose the one that works for you, okay? So on number 7, they found out what 1% was, and then they multiplied that by the percent they wanted. On the next one, they said, turn the percent into a fraction and then multiply it by your total. Then on the last one, they set up a proportion. Turn your percent into a fraction and set it up with a proportion where the top of your proportion is your unknown and the bottom is your total. All right, number 10 is a totally new problem now. Says, what is 80% of 300 students? Solve it in 2 ways. So we have to show that we know how to get a percent in more than one way, more than one strategy. So 80% of 300 students, I'm going to do number 8 strategy and number 9 strategy, okay? So number 8 strategy is saying 35% of 300. This time it's 80% of 300. So I'm going to take my 80%, I'm going to write it as a fraction, 80 out of 100. I'm going to turn my of into a multiplication sign, and then 300 turns into a fraction. Most kids probably like this strategy the best just because it's hard to forget what to do. Like, it's literally just doing what the problem says. 80% of 300, right? 80% as a fraction, turn of to multiplication, and then 300 is just your next number. It's pretty simple. Then you go straight across. 8 times 3 is 24, and then I have 1, 2, 3 zeros that I'm multiplying, so they get tacked onto the end there to get 24,000. 100 times 1 is 100. So how do I simplify 24,000 divided by 100? If I'm dividing by 100, then I'm going to move my decimal place 2 places. So instead of 24,000, if I divide by 100, that means my decimal place is moving right here. And I get 240 students. That's one way to do it. What's the second way to do it? Well, the second way I'm going to choose is how I did it when I was a kid, which is number 9. That's saying you turn it into a fraction, just like we did on this first strategy. So 80 out of 100 equals, we don't know how many kids that is, but we do know the total kids is 300. And then you just solve the proportion. So 80 times 300. And then on the left, we get 100x. So I'm going to solve, and I already know 80 times 300 because we did that right here is 24,000. And then we get 100x on this side. Divide by 100 on both sides. And we end up with the same answer, which is 240. Cool. All right. Let's do number 11 2 different ways. Let's do the way that we did it in number 7, because we haven't done that yet. The strategy in number 7 is divide your total students by 100 just to find 1%. So in this one, it's 26% of 1,200 students. So I'm going to take that 1,200 and I'm going to divide it by 100. In this strategy that they did in number 7, you always divide it by 100 because you're trying to find 1%. So 100 goes into 120 one time. 1 times 100 is 100. Subtract and we get 20, bring down our 0, and we get 12 for our answer. So I know that we get 12. That's like saying that back in what we did at the beginning of our lesson, instead of having 3 students in a group, it's like telling us there's 12 students in each group. So if I want 26%, I take my 26 and I multiply it by 12 because there's 26 boxes essentially, and there's 12 kids in each one. So 2 times 6 is 12, 4, 5, placeholder, 6, 2, and we get 312. So that's one way to do it. And let's talk about a second way. A second way we could do this let's do number 8 again. I think this will be kind of popular with you guys, is this strategy in number 8, just because you're just taking, to me, it's just the simplest one. You're looking at the numbers and you're just changing that phrase, 26% of 1,200. You're just turning that into a math problem. 26%, we write it as 26 over 100, because that's a fraction. Of turns into multiply, and 1,200 just stays as it is. Put it over 1, and then we just solve the math problem. Okay, so 26 times 1,200, that seems like a big problem, but I could do 26 times 12. Hey, I already did that right here, and I got 312. But it was times 1,200, so I need to put 2 zeros on it. And then my denominator, 100 times 1, is 100. So for my final answer, 31,200 divided by 100 is this number. But my decimal place, because I'm dividing by 100, moves 2 places to the left. So really I end up with the number 312, which is what we said. So now we proved how to do those 2 different ways. Okay, so on this next page, it says, now the students at the school are in 3 groups of 100. Okay, so instead of, let's see, on this page, it was in 100 groups of 3. So it was 100 groups, 3 kids in each one. This time, it's still 300 kids, but it's just 3 groups and 100 kids in each group. Okay, so there's a change of language here. Before it was 100 groups of 3, and now it's 3 groups of 100. So do you guys see how the picture changed? 3 groups, 100 in each group, 100 groups, 3 in each group. Okay, so they're just having you look at it a little bit differently. So now it says, circle 1 student from each group in blue. Okay, here's 1 kid, and 1 kid, and 1 kid. I circled 1 kid from each group in blue. What percent of the students is this? Well, it might seem confusing at first, but then you might realize that percents are just ratios. That's why this page is called percent as a ratio. And if you think about it, if I forget these 2 groups right now, if there's 100 kids here and I circled 1 of them, what percent is that? 1 kid out of 100 equals 1%. Okay, so what percent of the students is this? Is just 1%. All right? Now, because we did that 3 different times, that ratio was the same every time. This was 1 out of 100, this was 1 out of 100, this was 1 out of 100. So it's 1%, no matter how many times we repeat this. But how many kids is this? Is 3, because we did it 3 different times. Okay? So the ratio 1 out of 100 doesn't change, but the number of students does change. It's 1 student, 2 students, 3 students. Okay, let's try that idea again on number 13. Circle 4 students from each group in red. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so what percent of the students is this? Well, I did 4 students out of 100. So what percent is that? 4%. It's 4% of this picture. It's also 4% of this picture. It's also 4% of this picture. We don't add those percents together. A ratio means that it stays the same no matter how big it gets. So it's always 4%. But how many kids is that? 4 plus 4 plus 4 is 12, because we repeated that group of 4 3 different times. Okay? All right, this is very similar to the first page. It's just a little bit of different thinking, the way they grouped it differently. All right, so number 14 says circle 45% of the students in green. Okay, so 45% of the students means I get to circle 45 out of 100 students each time. Okay, so I'm going to do 45. If I'm seeing this, if this whole thing is 100, I know that it looks like they have this split into 2 groups. So this one must be 50, And I know that I already used 5, so 50 minus 5 is 45. That means the rest of this must be 45. So I'm just going to circle this right here. I'll double check my work. I can tell these are in rows of 5. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45. Awesome. So I'm going to continue that. Here's 45% of the students. And again, the reason this is 45% is because this is 45 out of 100. Okay? 45 out of 100 this time, 45 out of 100 this time, 45 out of 100 this time. No matter what group we look at, it's always 45 out of 100, which means it's 45%. They want to know how many students that is. Well, I circled 45 students, then I circled another 45 students and another 45 students. So it's 45 students 3 different times, so I can do 45 times 3, which is 135 students. Now I'm not writing down why because I feel like I just explained it on the camera. So let's try number 15. It says circle 82% of the students in yellow. All right, so 82%, I'm gonna do, here's 50% would be all of this side, that's 50. And then I need 80, so I'm gonna do, there's 10 more, 60, 70, 80, and then I need 2 more, 1, 2. So there's 82% because it's 82 out of 100. So I colored in 82 out of those 100, but I have to do that every time. So here's 50, 60, 70, 80, 81, 82. And then one more time. Here's 50, 60, 70, 80, 81, 82. So no matter which one I looked at, I always did 82 out of 100, which means it was 82%. And then how many students is this? Well, I did 82 students 3 different times. 82 plus 82 plus 82. We can solve that by doing 82 times 3, which is 246 students. Okay, now you can see why doing a picture for percent can start to get a little bit overwhelming because it feels like a lot of work to do all the circling and shading. So it's kind of nice to have the strategies that we did on this page. So we're going to practice those a little bit more on our last page of work today. So now it says methods for finding percent of a number. So it's just going to be practicing a little bit more of different ways how to do this. It says 5 students had different ideas about how to solve the problem below. So before, it was just 3 different kids had a way to solve it. Now there's 5 kids that have a different way to solve it. That just proves there's lots of ways to solve percent problems. It says of the 300 students at the school, 99% say they're going to the school party. How many students is this? Okay, so the first student, number 16, they thought of it like this. 99% means 99 for each 100. So I will use a 99% ratio table. All right, so this student said the portion, which is just another word for part, the part versus the whole, is 99 out of 100. And so for 200, that would be another 99, which would be 99 plus 99 is 198. Out of 300, it would be another 99. So 198 plus another 99 would be 297. So for this problem, their answer is 297 students. And their strategy was make a table. Okay, so the reason this one worked really nicely is because their total was in groups of 100. And that's how percents work, is in groups of 100. So they said, hey, if there's 99 for 100, that means there must be another 99 for 200 and another 99 for 300. So these are jumping by plus 99 each time. All right, number 17 says Anna, it's her idea, she's going to divide 300 by 100 to find 1% of 300, then multiply that answer by 99 to find 99% of 300. That sounds complicated, but that's exactly what we did on the first page of our lesson. when we said if you want to find 4% and there's 3 in each group, you do 4 times 3. It's also what she did here on number 7. Okay, so she's going to take 300 divided by 100, which I already know, we did this last time. 300 divided by 100 equals 3. And the reason she did that is because she wants to find what's 1% of 300. Then multiply that by 99, because you want to be able to say, well, if 1% is 3 kids, what's 99%? So she's multiplying it by 99 now. And she gets 297 students. All right. The third student says, I'm going to use the fact that 99% of 300 means 99%, or 99 out of 100 times 300. So this is the student that goes like this. I'm going to turn this into, the 99 turns into a fraction, or 99%, I mean, turns into a fraction, of turns into a multiplication sign, and then 300 is just 300 over 1. So this student solves 99 times 300 for the numerator, 100 times 1 for the denominator. So I better solve 99 times 300. Now I already know what it is because I know 99 times 3. I solved that up here. This was 1 group of 99, 2 groups of 99, and 3 groups of 99. So I know it's 297, but that was times 3. I want times 300, so I need to put 2 extra zeros on it. Now, if I want to divide 29,700, if I want to divide that by 100 to simplify my answer, I need to take that number and move my decimal place 2 spots to the left. So I'm dividing by 100. So this turns into 297 students, just like the other kids got. Just different ways to do the same problem. All right, so then we have this student who says if P is the number of students going to the party, then the fraction of students going is P out of 100, and it's also 99 out of 100. I can write and solve a proportion. Okay, so this is like the strategy on number 9 on our previous page. This is the one that I said I learned when I was a kid. So we're trying to find 99%, so our first proportion fraction is 99 out of 100. We set that up equal to, we don't know how many kids that is, that's what we're trying to find, but the total number of kids is 300. So then you just solve your proportion using probably, well, there's different ways to do it we've talked about before, but cross multiplication is, I think, the easiest. So we get 100x equals 99 times 300. And 99 times 300, I already solved on the problem right before that. 99 times 300 was 29,700. I want to isolate my x, which means right now it's being multiplied by 100. I want to do the inverse operation, the opposite, and divide by 100 on both sides. And that makes the x all alone. And 29,700 divided by 100, that's what I solved right here. Remember, a fraction bar just means divide. 29,700 divide by 100 equals, we already did that, 297. So this student also got 297 students. All right, number 20. 99% is 100% minus 1%. So I will take 1% of the 300 students away from 100% of 300. So this seems a little complicated, but what he's saying is if I can just find 1%, I'm going to take that 1% away from my total of 300 kids because 99% is just 100% minus 1%. So what this kid does is what the student does at the beginning here. Right here, what Anna did, she found 1%. So if you want to find 1%, it's the same thing. She did 300 divided by 100. So 300 divided by 100 equals 3. That means 3 students equals 1%. It's the same thing. That did not show up very well. I circled it too close. 3 students equals 1%. So if 3 students is 1%, take your total of 300 students and subtract 3 kids, because if this is 100%, it's like saying this. This is 100%, take away 1%. So 300, take away 3. 100 take away 1% equals 99%. So 300 take away 3 equals 297. So 297 is 99%. All right, now if any of these strategies did not make sense to you, don't worry about it. Look, we have 5 different ways here, and you just have to know one that works for you. Sometimes the problems will say, hey, solve it 2 different ways, but really in real life, guys, as long as you have a strategy that works for you, that's what matters. So the reason we're showing you so many different ways to do it is because everyone's brain works differently, and you have to find the method that works best for you. So we have 2 more quick problems that are not related to the rest of this page. They're totally different numbers, but we get to pick our own strategy. First, it says, what's 51% of 600 students? So let's do this. This is the one I think kids probably like the best. I might be wrong. Maybe your brain works different. I just think this is the clearest. 51 out of 100. We turn the percent into a fraction. Of turns into a multiplication sign. And then 600, we just write 600 as a whole number. And we know that if we want to solve fractions, when we multiply, we have to turn 600 into a fraction. So now we get to solve 51 times 600. I'm just going to solve 51 times 6. I think it'll be faster. And then I'll add 2 zeros to my answer because I'm actually multiplying 600. So I get 306. Put 2 zeros on my answer. And then I can say 100 times 1 equals 100. So I know my answer is going to be 30,600, but then my decimal place, because I'm dividing by 100, moves 2 places to the left. So my final answer is 306 students for number 21. All right, last problem of the day. What is 49% of 500 students? All right, maybe let's set up a proportion. So we say 49 out of 100 shows 49%. To show a proportion, we're saying we don't know how many kids that is, but the total kids is 500. So in order to solve this, I'm going to cross multiply. So I have 100x on the left because it's 100 times x. On the right, I have 49 times 500. Now, I don't know what 49 times 500 is, so I'm going to solve 49 times 5, which is, 245. But it's times 500, so I need to put 2 extra zeros on it. So 100x equals 24,500. And if I'm going to solve this, I need to have x all by itself. So I'm going to divide by 100 on both sides to isolate my x, make it all alone. And I'm left with x all alone on the left side. And then on the right side, 24,500 divided by 100, just what we've been saying all along, just means your decimal place moves 2 places to the left. So I end up with 245. So this 49% of 500 students is 245 students for our final answer. Yay! All right, well, I hope that I've presented enough strategies to you so that you can at least understand one. I hope you understand all of them, but hopefully there's at least one that makes sense to you. All right, thanks guys.